So, Jess, can you hit the lights? So basically, just to reinforce what we just did, you get mortgage interest, but only on loans up to $1 million. You get home equity loan interest, but only on loans up to $100,000. And you get all your loan origination fees in the year that you pay them. And those can be pretty significant amounts. What about interest on student loans? That goes on the face of the 1040. It's not an itemized deduction, it's a deduction for AGI. Can you find that on the face of the 1040 for me? Yes, line 33. Up to $2,500, and again, that's on the face of the 1040 because it's so important. They want everybody to get it even if you don't itemize. But once you make more than $65,000 as a single or 130 as married, that $2,500 number starts to phase out. How do I know if my student or if my clients have this? They get a, I can't remember the name of the form. They get a form from the institution that they borrowed their student loan money from, and it'll say how much their interest was for that year, and they give it to me, and I just enter it straight into the input worksheet for that, and it'll come up right on the face of the 1040. Investment interest. This is kind of technical. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. Mostly where I see this is on those brokerage statements we were just looking at. On the last page, it'll say margin interest, you know, $496. What that means is if you have a portfolio, you call your broker, and you're like, I'm feeling lucky. It's really like gambling without leaving your chair. And again, don't do it. Bad, bad, bad to leverage like this. I've seen this go south many more times than I've seen it go north. You borrow money from your broker to buy stocks, and then you have to pay them back, so you're hoping the stocks do what? Appreciate in value, and you sell them, you pay them back, and you pocket the rest. This is the interest you're paying your stockbroker to borrow money from him or her. Okay? That's called one more time. You're doing this in almost any situation. I mean, if you want to bet on the come, if you're somebody that loves to gamble and has money to burn, have at it. If you're somebody that wants to make proactive investments for your future, this is not how you go. So, but if you do it and you get interest or you pay margin interest, it goes on line 14 on your Schedule A. And you can see there that it tells you need to fill out a 4952. And what the law says is that you only get to deduct your investment interest up to your amount of your investment income. So if I borrow the 496 and I have no interest, no dividends, and no capital gains, do I get to write that off? Nope. But I can carry it forward. Okay. I've got, maybe 5 people over the years that have done this, including my dad. He was, huh?
Did it work out?
No, it did not work out for him. He lost his entire life savings of his construction company and 10 months in the stock market. So now I would say it most assuredly did not work out for him. I think that's why I'm so adverse to it. Contributions. Charity's allowed as a deduction. Obviously, anytime you write a check, you get a deduction, but you have to write it to what kind of organization? It's a nonprofit. And so what if you just tell me like, oh, I'm a nonprofit? Or, I mean, and that's being silly. What if I go downtown to a gentleman down by the river and I'm like, here's $50, dude, good luck. Why not? Definitely a charitable case.
But they're not registered with the IRS.
They're not registered with the IRS. It's only if you give money to a 501c3 or C4. C4s are those nasty dark money political organizations that we've been hearing so much about.
So can you still write it off as a contribution if you get something in return? Like when I donate $20 to PBS and they send me a tote bag and a coffee mug?
First off, I'm like, don't send me the tote bag and the coffee mug. I don't want any tchotchkes made in China, okay? But they're not gonna. That's not gonna trickle through because it's really immaterial. But if I buy a ticket to the hospice ball, right? Every March they have this huge ball out of the air hangar, and you pay $150 for a ticket, and you go, and you're served a nice dinner, and you get free wine, and blah 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 blah. The value of that night as entertainment, food, and wine is $50, and I paid them $150 for the ticket. What do I get to write off? 100. You also get 14 cents a mile if you drive. So I'm in Big Brothers Big Sisters. I go pick up my little sister every week, and we go, we go into the woods, and we go up to the Flathead, and we go do this and that. That's all deductible, right? But if I let somebody go use my camper or my condo or my boat or my whatever I have, and I let the church youth group go do it, do I get to deduct the value of that for the weekend? No, because that's way too subjective, isn't it? Oh, well, that was worth $1,000. I'm going to write that off. There's an RV in the woods, probably close to 60. It has to be made to a qualified recipient. We just talked about that. And if you're unsure about who you're giving to, actually, you can go do this. But what I do, and I teach this online nonprofit class for main campus students every fall, and I just had them complete, and this is just general life information that I think is good to know. If you're interested in a nonprofit, go to GuideStar, and you can sign up as a student, and you don't get all the incredibly detailed data, but you can go look at their 990s, which is a tax return for a nonprofit, and you can see how much revenue do they earn, and where does it come from, and oh my God, really, they pay my pastor what?
NFL's a 501(c)(3). Can I buy season tickets and write it off as a charitable donation?
No, because of the value. The value of the seats is basically what you're paying for them. And that is one of the biggest crocs.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree.
The NFL is a 501c3, which really says that you have to return all of your excess funds, they don't call them assets in nonprofit accounting, excess funds to your constituents to serve a need.
There is a money that Carrie Underwood.
Interestingly enough, the Good Food Store is also a nonprofit, and that has caused a lot of angst in Missoula when other organizations, natural and whole food organizations, have attempted to come in here. If you don't have to pay taxes, what can you do price-wise for your products compared to other companies? Yeah, undercut them. Huh? Well,
Why would it do?
Well, now they do have competition with Natural Market, but they didn't forever. They were a monopoly. I'm sorry? Oh, no, No, they're out of Denver, and they're a fully taxable institution.
What about co-op?
So co-ops are different. We have something called the Montana Food Co-op, which is over by Burn Street Bistro, and that's a membership. Co-ops are memberships. They're kind of in tax la-la land. In other words, they're not taxable as a for-profit, but neither are they a nonprofit. They file I think it's called a 990 co-op, which basically shows what the membership fees were, what the cost of food is, and it essentially works like a nonprofit where you have to distribute any excess funds to your constituents. So at the end of the year, if we all bought in and we took X amount of food out, and there was still, we'd put in $30 more than we had extracted, they essentially would have an obligation to reimburse us for that. Okay, so if you go to the Goodwill or Home Resource or Salvation Army and give things, that's deductible. Gifts of household items, clothing, must be in good condition. items with minimal value may not be deducted. If you've ever gone to the Goodwill, what do? You want a receipt? Yes, please. And they give you a piece of paper with a signature on it that you can fill in whatever you want, right? So, and I will tell you, nothing irritates me more. Nothing irritates me more. Talking to a client, okay, going down the Schedule A, okay, do I have your 1098 check? Do I have your medical expenses check? Any charitable contributions? Yeah, $2,000. Okay, so cash or property? Oh, no cash, all property. Huh, where did you give $2,000 of appraised value in property to? Goodwill. No, you didn't. Thrift store value is generally about 10% of what you paid for it. Tops. So that means you donated 20 grand worth of clothes and furniture to the Good Food Store? Because thrift store value is about 10% of it. Okay? No, you didn't. So, and I'll tell people, and I've actually even lost clients over this. No, put $2,000 down. I'm like, you're going to get audited. It's a huge red flag. Up to $500. If people tell me I took 10 loads of stuff there, I'll put down $450 for them. But I'm not putting down a couple $1,000 that goes to Good Food or goes to the Goodwill.
Yeah, would that be different though, if you were, like, if you were downsizing and you had, bedroom furniture and you had dining room furniture and you had...
If you've got, and here's the thing, that's cool if you get audited and you can pull out and show the auditor, like, here's pictures of everything that I donated, right? Wow, that's a beautiful mahogany table, right? The thing is, most people aren't donating $10,000 mahogany tables. They're selling them, or they're trading them, or they're, it's just, what we take to the Goodwill is generally stuff that's very low in value, right? Now, with that said, Home Resources, I've verifiably taken quite big chunks of money off when people are like pulling out windows or siding that really does have value. And they can show, particularly pictures, receipts, things like that. Yeah, sure.
But so, like, with Home Resources, did they give you an actual list of value, or do you still have to figure it out?
You pretty much have to figure it out. And basically, I tell people take pictures. Oh, right here, and then I'll answer your question, Jess. This is exactly what you're talking about right here. Yeah, I'm, in fact, that's a good example. An heiress in New York City, I was just reading, just donated Monet to a small little boutique museum. Can't come up with the name right now. Doesn't matter. Pittenberg, doesn't matter. A Monet, $8 million original Monet, right? He was a French Impressionist painter. Okay, how much does that heiress get to deduct? Okay, the question is, so she's contributing property, so she'd like to write off the full $8 million, right? That was the fair market value of the donation. Well, if the sale of that property, that picture, would have resulted in ordinary income or short-term capital gain, then she's not going to get to deduct the full $8 million. Do you think that painting would have been ordinary income or short-term capital gain? Would you call that an investment or personal property? I would call it an investment. I mean, when you're investing in art that has a lot of appreciation and international recognition, you can make a pretty good case that there's a ready market for it. I mean, if I went downtown Missoula on First Friday and bought an up-and-coming artist that just graduated from the U and paid $800 for one of her paintings, and then I donated, it probably isn't going to qualify as investment property because there's not a ready market for it. Nobody knows her, but everybody knows Edouard Manet, right? So she's not going to have to worry about this. What she's doing is this. If taxpayer donates appreciated long-term capital gain property, which is what the Manet is, such as appreciated stock, I'm using the example of appreciated art, you get to deduct the fair market value of the property. There's some exceptions. This one's pretty complicated. I'm not going to go into that. Except if the donation is unrelated to the organization's purpose. Well, if I give a Monet to a boutique museum, is it unrelated? No, it's related, so I get it. But if I gave the artwork to the Humane Society, right? Which, I mean, what are they going to, obviously, turn around and sell it? They want the $8 million, right? Am I going to get it then? No. So the lesson here is, if you've got clients that want to donate, and I've had a number of these over the years, particularly people that want to donate to conservation organizations. They want to they don't want to write out a check, but they've got some, PG&E stock their grandpa gave them in the 40s. That, he paid 80 cents a share for, and now it's $80 a share. If they sell that stock, they're going to have to pay capital gains on it, right? But if they give that stock away, then they get the full deduction, fair market value. Okay. Gifting it to your kids isn't the same as gifting it to a charitable organization.
I don't know, I think sometimes your kids can be a charity. Well, no.
Yeah, but they're not 501c3s.
But it's not as far as not claiming the capital.
If you don't want to gift stock, appreciated stock to your children, you want to die with it. And here's why. If you're my kid and I've got $100,000, okay, this gets a little bit complicated, but stick with me. Say I'm worth a couple $1 million, and you're my kid, and I want to gift you $100,000 right now to get you into a house. Okay? If I gift it to you, I can only gift you $14,000 a year tax free. I'm going to have to pay tax on that $86,000, right? So what I'm probably going to want to do instead, from a tax planning standpoint, I'm going to want to buy you the house, keep it title in my name, and then when I die with it, it all gets a stepped up basis and passes to you, and there's never any tax ramifications. So, inheritance is you get a stepped up basis. So really you want to die with appreciated property, and you want to gift low value stuff. That might be a little beyond our purview here. Okay, super quickly, because this is almost never an issue. You can only write off up to 50% of your AGI for charity. Well, honestly, most people are not gifting away half of their AGI, right? But if you are somebody that's in that situation, you can only write off up to 50%. This is 501c3s like churches, hospitals, educational associations. 30% organizations where you can only write off up to 30% of your AGI. These are like, the moose and the elk and the lions and all those animal clubs. They're called fraternal societies or non-operating foundations. And they do civic good, but they're not designed, they're not set up to do what 501c3s do.
Can corporations donate? Or is there like a limit to how much a
Same
corporation?
limitations.
The same thing applies to them?
Same limitations. This is all, I had to do these because it was in the book, and I write these slides for the publisher, but I'm not going to ask you about this. This is quite complex and almost never seen in practice. What do you have to substantiate? Well, basically, what I was telling you before about I'm putting $5 in the say the bucket. That's not what goes around at church. The plate. I can get away with writing off up to $250 a year without a receipt, right? If you really want receipts, you need to write checks. You can't just put the $5 in. Non-cash contributions must be in good condition, and if a charity knowingly provides false acknowledgement, they can get up to a $1,000 penalty. Okay, this was a huge issue. I don't know when exactly it was, probably 4 or 5 years ago. The scam kind of came out. So I've got one of my kids, when they left home, didn't take a car with them because they moved to D.C. You don't need a car. So I've got this old Jeep sitting by the side of my house, right? And in this day and age, we paid $7 or $8 grand for it. So now I want to donate it to the Battered Women's Shelter. They have a program where you can donate vehicles. They have mechanics that volunteer to refurb them, and then women that are coming out of the shelter have reliable transportation. Okay, win, win, win. So I want to write off the $8,000 that I paid for the Jeep. Is that going to work? Of course not. It's been there. It's been through 2 teenage boys, let's be honest, and 10 years of use. It's limited to the amount for which the charity sells the vehicle, but is my charity selling the vehicle? No, they're giving it to the women that are coming out of the shelter. So what do? I call them and I ask them, even though there's no resale amount, right, because they're not selling it, they're donating it to a needy individual. They're a 501c3. They've got to issue me a 1098-C that says, it's just Kelley Blue Book. And they look it up, and the stinking Jeep's worth, $1,700 now. I mean, it's 18 years old or something. And a bazillion miles on it. But I still want to write off something. So this was a huge scam where people were doing just what I said, writing off the $7,000 or $8,000 that you paid for the Jeep, 15 years ago. No, that's not going to work. They now have a 1098-C system. So the IRS, I can guarantee you, if you donate a vehicle, they're going to match the number that you deduct on your Schedule A to the 1098-C. Okay. Or if you just want to donate the car to the Humane Society, what are they going to do with it? Now, obviously, they're going to sell it and take the cash and use it to fund their shelter. They're going to issue a 1098-C showing the resale information. Okay? There's some really neat programs around donated vehicles. Number one impediment to women coming out of domestic violence shelters in making it on their own is lack of reliable transportation. We have programs for housing, health care, food stamps, nothing for a car. And it's like, well, to use the bus. I mean, I know that sounds great, but I've got 3 kids, and I need to be to work at 7 in the morning. I mean, what are we really talking about realistically? I need a car that runs. So let's just go through this and then we'll call it a day. So during the current year, Clem donates $1,260 to his synagogue's youth group. He allows the youth group to use his lake cabin. He drives 1,000 miles on behalf of the YWCA, and he donates a vehicle valued at $950 to the Battered Women's Shelter. And they sell the car for $750 and issue a 1098-C. What's his contributions? What does he get? Does he get the $1,260? Okay. So is the synagogue a 501c3? Yeah, I probably should tell you that. Whenever I give an example of a church or any religious affiliation, let's assume that it's a 501c3. So they get the $1,260, they get the $500. That's for the youth group. No, because how do I really know what the value of my lake cabin is? 1,000 miles, what do I do with that? That was the medical deduction was 0.235. For charities, 14 cents a mile. And then what about the car? $750.
So mileage is 14 cents a mile.
It is.
For
charity. And 23.5 cents a mile for medical. All right, we'll pick up with casualty and theft just so you know what's going on next week in here. Let me show that.